You know what I really don't get sometimes? And it's like these, there's different facets of psychic or psychological different issues that run into each other or overlap each other in life. And there's certain things that you have to face the facts about in the value system of life. Like there's always this run along debate. It's like Plato and Thrasymachus, whatever the fuck is, however I pronounce his second fucking name. Anyway, it, it's like their argument is forever life in between 3D and 2D, and why some people live as the sword, or live as the pen, or you live on your feet, or you live in your mind. I guess that would be one of the older debates that were just, there are those who make history, there are those who write history. That debate, that particular spectrum of debate is fucking endless. But let me tell you something about being a modern day man, or in the modern era. You look at all of life and you start to realize, where do things become such a parallel for how disgusting and how fucked up the modern day world has become within its prolificity with everything in life. And you still have to go back and look at like all the obvious objections to what life is, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with the modern day world? What the fuck did we do that makes us so fucking disgusting? And even though I'm one of the proliferators of this type of bullshit, it is really true. Like, I fucking hate the modern day world. It's because they have become so advanced, or we have become so advanced and so modern, that all of our most strongest independent elitist maneuvers have become the renown of ourselves, and the most well-known for ourselves to own all of our bullshit. It's like all of our bullshit owns us. It's past religion, it's past principle, it's past all these things that we live by. It's past all of that, and has become those things that we now have that own us. It's like, in fact, our lies own us. It's like what people have gone on to furthermore say, and never really hit the point, is that all of those things that you own you. It's such a true quote. You probably got it from a fucking, Fight Club or Pit movie. But let's be real about something. It's so fucking understated, and it's so understated. But where it's really coming from is that all of these psychological equipments, these philosophies, these principles, all have become so strong in the modern day world that the only thing that we can cohere to, the only thing that we can really concede to, is that this shit owns us, and it's larger than our lives. It's always has been larger than our lives. The will to fight for something, survival, the instinct to want to give it all to something better than you is still, I consider, an instinct of survival. Because what the fuck am I giving this for? It's not that we keep raising the fucking bar. It's that the bar gets so high that the only thing that becomes civil about it is the humaneness of wanting to destroy oneself in order to supply or to re-immerse the fucking mission up to a statutable level for your progeny, for your young, for the next wave, the next generation. Like, all that shit is so much bigger than you and me. But when it comes to like how confusing it can really get, and how psychologically pissed off that I can be towards what the fucking modern day world has become and is about, is the same old shit where you realize, oh my God, it really is fucking true. But not only that, it never really began to feel like weighted or heavy until you start to realize one of those motherfuckers is a liar. And we're not talking about like Deepak Chopra, choke your ass or whatever the fuck. We're not talking about him. We're not talking about any of these gurus. We're not talking about any of those people. All that shit made life feel weighted less, or the laws and the principles equaled, or the equivity of a motherfucking better life, and you realize that it's a better life and a stronger life and a more convenient life because you're organized, so you can just grab the tools that you need. So it's like worth taking the time to clean up your fucking mess and organize all your bullshit, even though it's like, man, wouldn't it just be faster to throw my shit where I know it is and then I always know where my shit is, or like, whatever. Sometimes for me, yes, but sometimes it will always pay off in the long run if you take the fucking 5 to 2 minutes to fucking do your extra chores and bullshit and then just have that shit wound up. That's what nirvana is here. That's what, well, not just America, but like that's what nirvana is. That's what all these things are. That's what all these concepts are. They will make your life fruitful. They will make your life frugal. They will make your life everything so much better in every facet. That's what a religion is. That's what organization is. That's what philosophy is. That's what psychological. Well, I don't want to say psychic because that has nothing to do with it. Psychic is a fucking. It's like saying, oh, we found out how to bend metal, but we're all like dumb motherfuckers with it. So it's like the new basis of forensically being a dumb motherfucker with everything that you're supposed to have. So it's like you can bend the laws of reality to figure out who the fucking murderer is, but you don't have any fucking evidence to prosecute the fucker. So you wasted all of our time and made us believe something that's irrational for no fucking reason. And wasted all of our fucking time and hurt all of us with a conclusion that is only bittersweet to solving the actual fucking crime. Which means you have to actually take the baby steps or the real steps in life to fucking solve the crime and to really do your fucking business. And then we're not talking about no bullshit like, oh, you robbed you knocked over the 7-Eleven. I don't give a shit. And I'm talking about you like murdering 18-year-olds and killing little kids and shit. And we found the crime and we just kept solving it. We don't give a fuck because we thugs and we don't care either because you did something wrong. Because put it this way, everything in the world can be wrong. But when you get down to it, there's only two people that are wrong. One, child abuse. Two, killing some kids. Or, the other third, the thing of the two things, which is like, you did that shit and you was sicko and we gonna kill you anyways. So that's why the last sin isn't even illegal because we would have killed you anyway. So by the end of it, like, you add up all these things, and why am I blaming the modern day world so much? And why am I being so aggressive with the modern day world? Because you add up all these things and no one really knows why. They don't know what it is. Because even if you had all these coherencies and, religion, body, mind, soul, religion, all these other concepts of psychological things, principles, all of these things that helped you become or forge a greater, better person for you, yourself, and what you reflect on in life to become a stronger, more humble person. Even increase your tolerance for things, which doesn't mean I just sit around taking people's shit. It's just one of them things. Now, that all added up. What was my original point? My original point was this. Most people don't even realize why they even hate the modern day world, or what we don't realize that we're psychologically carrying as baggage. And it's unbelievable to realize that when you add up all of these different things, I'm talking about all of religion, all 5, 6 of them. All 5, 6 of them. And could you imagine a whole world with billions of people and we only got like 5, 6 religions? They must have done something right. Only 5 or 6 of them motherfuckers. Okay, whatever, 7 I guess, but we're gonna stay away from you. That one religion that's like, what's your problem? Will you come out with a black Bible and it's full of just, oh no, I don't need that bullshit. And you can sell all 7 of that other motherfucker back and we don't owe them and they're sicko. So anyway. That's why you got to be careful with anything that's like over 5 or 6 of these motherfuckers. But let's say that you add up all those things and none of that really seems like baggage at all. Even the other one seems like, wow, like that's how you were relieving yourself behind our back. Wow, you sick cretin motherfucker. But that's okay. Then, but when you go and you review this and you realize, There's this one motherfucker out there. Now, even when you know the devil is, and even when you know the other motherfucker is, and, you know, I'm not going to blame Satan, because Satan has very little to do with it anymore. And it's kind of like you sold all that and you're out of product and you never went back into business since. So, and you're not as bad as the poacher to me. So, and I'm from the other side of the continent type of other half of the world. So for me, it might not be illegal as many animals were trying to kill us. So for what you two have in common, it's kind of like, oh, wow, you want to sell each other's skin. Get the fuck out of here. Now, you know what I'm saying? That's the lowest of low that I've ever seen. And I'll tell you why that's a big deal later on down the road if it becomes something that people are like, what the fuck? They sell body parts? And like, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. So, and it seems like, for real, not Play-Doh at all. It just seems flimsy, like no one's doing that, blah blah. But when you look at the market and how many different ways reality is systemic to some sick credence that anybody has ever had in their Bible, because you ever notice that even if you're a priest or anything really important, when you help write a Bible in history, or when you help, and most of those people were killed off or, you know, put away very, you know, casually to the point where they died off and disappeared or whatever the fuck, or the civilization was accidentally lost or some shit. Like, we just misplaced civilizations that helped write Bibles and shit, or we just or we just misplaced Bibles. The sections of the Bible just lost into life. Like, yeah, right, motherfucker. And you know, all this stuff comes down to God and King. And remember, I'm still seaming all this shit together for you. And now it gets back to the fucking point where, like, all right, kings have probably obviously threw them out, probably deleted them or killed them, offed them after writing these Bibles, or so on and so forth for different parts of history. Because back in the day, how the hell do you really keep a secret? And even today, how the fuck do you really keep a secret? You hear all these old king stories about, like, you know, they built my castle and then he had them all killed off and shit. That's it. That's the true sacrifice of creating anything biblically strong or biblically beautiful. And that is in some other kind of a Bible. But in the King's Bible, but when it comes back to the real truth of it, you can only see the unfettered, invisible hands of what the market is. They always say follow the fun money, but even when there's no receipt or king's orders or what history decrees itself or how the pen lies throughout history or why they would even lie about it, you start to realize that if you are your own king, and you see what goes on in life, you got tough, rational decisions to fucking make. And you start looking at life and you realize, Jesus Christ, there would be no way in hell that motherfucker could ever allow that as a fucking king and not off all of those fucking people. So civilizations hidden, civilizations laid to rest, civilizations deleted, I mean outright. I want to say deleted to sound real nice with you in the modern day world, but let's just say it's worse than Cole. It was fucking completely destroyed, completely assassinated, completely destroyed, completely annihilated from the face of mankind, just to preserve one little secret, one little section in the fucking Bible. Now, it sounds like a tall cup of chaos or like some craziness that somebody just wants to believe, but this is not a fiction. This is some shit that, like, would be common misplaced to life and society on how you run your kingdom, your principles, or what you philosophically decree yourself to be humbly so by. But let's humble ourselves and say that that's something that you can learn from taking care of yourself as a king, which I've never really fucking preferred. I always preferred to worship something, craft something for God, do good things for God. I was always that type of person, as annoying as it was for other people. I didn't know that worshiping something or God or anything for that matter, could annoy so many fucking people until you realize why religion is desperately and secretly in the closet with the other motherfucker who has like 7 of these dirty motherfucking things that he just wants to cycle in a circle, and you just realize it's just me and you in the closet and I'm the good one? Fuck, I need to get the fuck out of here. You people are disgusting and deranged, deluded, delusional. I mean, fuck, there's so many words for it. Belligerent, all kinds of fucking things. But and hopefully out of some fucking kind of ignorance, but like really in the end you start to realize that what I'm really tailing off to is that all of these different rules and these different things that feel like they're weighing upon society, or why the word religion seems to scare most people or you, is that there seems to be too many things to be afraid of, to adhere to be mournful of, to be weary of, and all that stuff. For me, that's not what religion did. For me, religion felt like, holy shit, this is like a complete balance of, well, in most cases, you gotta take some things with a grain of salt, like, well, no, I'm not going to say any of these because the ones that I can remember are so fucking ridiculous that it's just like, what kind of fucking... But anyway, let's just get back to the fucking point. The reason I'm saying this is that with all the loopholes and all the dignity and all the respect and all the humble attitude and the things that you can find in life, there's only 2 quiet weeping souls that would ever notice each other. And one, somebody who's so quiet and so innocent and so sweet and pure that they just notice everything because they are truly innocent, and everything has this heightened notion of being under the radar, or zoomable, or boomable, giant to them. So everything that you do is like this giant thing. So when you get 7 or 4 cents back from change from some place that you went and got stuff, 99 cents, 94 cents, 98 cents, 96 cents, all of these different things, and you get back just the amount of change. All of these things to an innocent person look giant. They're like giant fucking footprints. But then when you also see that on the other half of it, the true enemy of the world and the true enemy of everything that we do in cause and jest and for honesty and humility, whatever it might be, all of those things right next to you is that quiet piece of shit, and you just hear this fucking whisper of everything being coming up to statute of what they have to do to declare themselves a free, humble human being next to you. And you're sitting there and you follow all these rules and you feel free as a fucking bird. But meanwhile, this other person is coming back from being a woman. And I was like, what the fuck happened? I was a man in my last life. I got married. What the fuck? And then you've ever sat there and just listened to life? I'm not talking about listening to life like, oh, I heard what Barbie said. She's in a Barbie world. She's buying all of her purses. She's in her Barbie world. She's in a Barbie hurl. Whatever. I'm not talking about Barbie shit. Because, you hear all that. Like, oh, man, she spent $1,400 on a dress. $700 on some pumps. What the fuck? Of course I'm not talking about that. That's the wrong station. That you could commonly hear, and that's social media, it's finest and all that bullshit. We don't need that. We don't care about that. That's common issue. I don't even really fucking care. You and Seven can have her. I don't give a fuck about it. But when it comes to well, not my personal Barbie, but the other one, right? But anyway, when it comes down to narrowing down all these philosophical brackets, you start to realize that bitch has quite the other bitch. We're not talking about Barbie. We're talking about the other bitch has a hell of a fucking life of fighting back against us. And I'm like, wait, your solemn, humbly honest belief that through all of that, you could not find anything to adhere to. You could not stay pure, righteous, and decent through that whole fucking thing. And my first instinct is I'm a man, okay? So religion comes kind of second because I still have to live my life. I'm still going to be a savage. I'm still going to be a thug. I'm still going to be ghetto. I'm still going to be brown. I'm still going to be whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? But then when it gets back to the basic root of things, of course I'm a Christian faith man and a loyal follower of the Lord and Savior and lover of God and people and all that bullshit. Of course. But when it comes back to the true respect and dignity that we have as those type of people, it still gets back to, God damn, you you really just can't follow any of that bullshit. You can't do any of that, right? I know it's boring. I know that there's some stuff, whatever. And for me, it ain't boring. Because, like, for me, it's like, you know, like, it's like one of those fucking, like, cool-ass epilogy motherfucking, you know, Roman movies where they're all fighting each other for perilous shit. And they're like, you know, oh, just fire the archers. Even when I'm reading the fucking Bible. So I'm never fucking bored. It's just I don't have the ability to be bored. Because I'll be reading the book, and in the book, like different scenes of movies will just start to come to life, and I'll just be sitting there in my motherfucking movie while I'm reading this fucking book. That's just how that's gonna be. I don't care if I'm driving down the street in a fucking Ferrari or a Lamborghini or some shit, and I'm going like 200, and like it seems like whisper soft in the fucking cabin, and then like I'm reading the fucking Bible. I got the Bible on a motherfucking radio playing. I will never be bored, because even within that fucking moment, I have a fucking movie in my motherfucking head of this fucking Bible. I always do. Now, even if that's not my secret, or that's not what the fuck is going on, let's get back to the truth of the matter. They couldn't find one goddamn thing, whether the Bible or not, or the ways of life, or any ways to anoint and announce into this fucking here life, into life, all of that, to be all right and not have to break a motherfucking person, law, or issue. And some people can't help it. They want to break people. Like, I had bitches, why are you trying to break me, bitch? Like, you never had a hoe or a bitch, she just tried to break you, and she keeps trying to break you. And I'm like, this relationship is going to work out. You're not meant for me, this, that, or the other. You're not meant to be with a man. Like, even a cool, intellectual, ethnic, you know, eccentric man, you're not allowed to be with me. Like, I should be with Daria, but like, let's be real. Like, you're not allowed to be with me because your ass crazy. You want to like have like an imprint on some guy or whatever the fuck. I don't know what her issue is. I don't know if it's Freudian. I don't know. I don't care. And let's get back to the fucking point. The real point of this, and what I'm putting here together is what I'm putting here together as this case is that if you've ever heard this type of bitch, and and I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about like this being, because it's definitely not man or woman. It has been through enough men, and it has been through enough women to not really understand what it is, that it's just trying to survive us as this thing that's guilty towards everything that we have ever hated in life, and it's just kind of surviving along. And you don't want to be hard on it either. You want to let it survive. You even want to root for it a little bit and be like, go ahead, benevolent butterfly or some bullshit, dark ass butterfly. Whatever the fuck is wrong with your dark moon tyranny, we don't know. You do not reflect the light of God in us, and all this bullshit. I revoke thee, bitch. I revoke thee. And you want to like fight for this bitch, but you gotta let her go. And you sit there and you're not even really trying to listen, because you stuck and you're like, I hear everything, and this is now the loudest thing. I heard 99 cents, I heard 98 cents, and felt suspicious. Then I get and later on I'll tell you why, because like there is a consumer market reason why, and then there's also a sinful reason why, where you're like, what the fuck do these numbers add up? And then like, you mean you are out there buying and selling organs, and it's right there readily available? We're like, this is some weird ass shit. But let's get deeper back into this person real quick. As she's sitting there, and you realize, like, you know how they said psychologically, if someone's looking up into the right in the corner of their eye while they're talking, they're making shit up. I started to realize something. Some people in life are living in a fucking two-dimensional screen. They're not even really fucking human, because they follow orders to a point where their decency and their dignity isn't even available, because it's a philosophical consumption. Like, let's say that if you are truly that evil and truly that wrong for the fucking world, you are literally dodging bullets left and right, to the point where it's like, I can't believe you're a whore, or like you're this type of fucking chick. And like, I'm not hating on girls, I'm not really hating on women. I know that like a woman's sexuality is different, so it'll always seem like she's a little bit of a whore, but it always seemed like, are you trained to make as many babies as possible. Well, on the opposite end, she's trained to get rid of as many eggs or to develop as many eggs as possible. So both of you are a whore. So I can't argue with that. So I never have and never will. But when it does get back to the fucking point where it's like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck could you possibly be worse more than the common type of chick that we don't know? Because on all men's side, it was like, no, the frail of dignity is my vigilance in life. Like, you know, her purity and all that bullshit. You know, her prudence. But all of that is supposed to be fucking true to us, and we're just a penis. What the fuck do we know? And then on the opposite end, it's just like, well, no, she's not a whore, but if she was going to save her village, it would be as many eggs as she had. So we're like, whatever. Anyway, so if by the time you're done putting that together, you have matured into manhood and understood that, oh wow, women want to do this fruit booter bullshit the same way we want to. So anyways, let's get back to the fucking point. When it comes back to her being a fucking girl and shit, and it all adds up, well, she was a man and all that bullshit. Not literally, but like, let's just say that like you could live and die, and like the soul is as constant as energy itself, and somehow I don't believe it, but somehow. And the reason I don't believe it is because even if energy was constant and this bitch could come back as a man or a woman or whatever we had punished, it's sicko to imagine the fact that the world had really decided to resurrect this man into a bitch and then continue to play its evil, immoral game with her. But it's like life got tired of punishing people for shit and just kept going. It did not give a shit. It was like, fuck it, you're a little bitch then. And it just made it a little bitch, and it kept going. And it's unbelievable, but I seen it with my own eyes. I seen it, and I was like, magic isn't real, but like they really killed that bitch, consummated his sin into a bitch, and then made it a woman, and then was like, you know, just kind of like leaving that thing to nothing, and then was kind of like, whoever fucks you is going to be the winner of what you failed last. And we're like, holy shit, men are into that. And I saw them converge to this bitch, and I couldn't understand this shit. And then it's like, wow, trannyism never meant anything next to sin. Don't ever steal a kiss. Like, what the fuck? There's so many traumatic things that the world does that you don't realize it's really doing against the whole universe, or the said bitch has come up with a reason to get fucked and uses it too and gets in the same line with her, and then it becomes all the more convoluted. But what I don't understand is and the whole purpose of this, back to the fucking greater point of this whole thing, this whole subject, I didn't get lost this whole entire time. I'm random, but I am saying adhere to this. What it really was about is that that little bitch is sitting there talking past every little fucking bullet. And as she speeds her way through a lifetime's worth, I mean multiple lifetimes, 4 or 5 generations, up to the highest I've ever seen was 17 generations of bullshit, whizzing past all that shit and just talking her little way through every little woman's dynasty, every man's dynasty, and just talking her way through. You know how you can like let's say you about to go to jail for manslaughter, and then you explain that it was a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and that it wasn't racist, so it wasn't manslaughter because you didn't run over no Mexicans. So there's no way that you can be guilty of such misconduct. I fuck if I know, right? But either way, it wasn't manslaughter because of that, and then you have the crime. This bitch was running through philosophical life like she had just been born as a fucking woman improperly and had to speed through all of that shit to not get fucked before she comes up to her desired conclusion about living in LA. And I was like, holy shit. And like, you should just hear this. And like, I may have to kind of accurately depict this later on in the values list, but if you actually sat there and listened to it, it's at the speed of lightning that she's just like declining every debate and then finally just like working her way back into this is what a resurrection is like. In the modern day world is trash, by the way, but like Modern day world is trash. But like, there's good things about the modern world. Everything you know about is good. But because of this bitch, and because of this type of people, and the fact that the small group is like no more than 20 people, it's like less than 20 people. It's not even a percentile of what the universe has to do, occupy, or live from. And we are in debt of fear of them and their prolific fear, their prolific fucking sin upon all of us. And it's crazy to know that few amount of people could actually affect the world. But let's just say there's more sex positions in life than there are guilty of sin with all of us in the universe. And we let them affect us so fucking much. Now, that's not a fault of religion. That's because these people must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of spirituality as possible, so that we all have less tolerant bullshit to deal with in all of our lives and universe by putting crap on them and making them live the hard Hercules beat of life with the motherfucking crack rock on their back and riding 20 miles on a fucking Huffy. We don't fucking know. We don't care. You bringing us drugs tonight? That's right. You bringing us drugs tonight? And that's all that matters. We don't know. We don't care. But by the end of it, that's the whole journey. And you start to realize this bitch sitting there, bullets winging past her head, Satanism, fucking blue satin, royal colors, Shafshire pit bulls winging to the left of her, and this is dodging bullets left and right. You could have been a pit bull in your last life, you bitch. You could have had lockjaw. You could have fucking been velvet water and then melted away into some kind of botanical disease and then died in the sewage and been stuck in sewage for 72 fucking hours until you finally escape the last few hours of sunlight, and then were reborn on a mountaintop later and into this greenish terrestrial valley or whatever the fuck. And you just like, all these bullets, this bitch just kept dodging left and right. And I'm talking about like life is like, she already knows that life is gonna throw. I'm talking about ex-said man bitch, and like already knows that life is gonna throw all of these bullets at her, and she's already coming up with excuses for all this. And then bam, it stabilizes. I'll go more into detail about this shit later, because I just don't really want to, because I don't want to use her actual excuses, because it's kind of like, it's kind of disgusting, because I'm like, if I repeat what I heard, it's like, holy shit, this bitch crazy, and I'm crazy for listening. But I was stuck, and I'm telling you, it was like, we were like, put it this way, imagine a world where everything is loud enough and you're tiny enough, where everything feels so hollow to the point where everything sounds like an auditorium, and you could hear people's footsteps walking, and everyone feels like a giant, and like you're not in the reproductive matters, but you're near them in a spiritual ghost line form, and you're like able to walk through past terrestrial fates of all of these people and stuff, and as you're like not really scoping them, because you're minding your own business, you know, all of that is like against the law, against religion, to go into their private business. But as you're whizzing around and you know you're riding on their fate, because you know your fate was dropped off some other weird ass way, or you had something to do with them but not really, and the way that they were all died and realigned. I didn't die that day, but it was just one of the things where I was like hyperly aware of, because if you ever have, you know how you ever seen that fucking movie One with Jet Li? If you ever accidentally kill off the multiple dimensions of yourself, or in my case I didn't, but if you ever accidentally kill all of them, it becomes such a hollow, empty space of what you are supposed to hold in the world. Now, if you meditate for a long period of time, that space becomes also hollow. Your fate starts to disappear. Your interaction with the world starts to disappear. And now only God and a few other multiple forms of reality are aware of your existence, your power or your will over those. Well, not power, but will over, because the power is a really bad word to use, but so I negate the word power and I mean will, over what you imagine in society or reality to be, including how you look in some ways. A lot of people aren't aware of any of these things, but let's just say that there is a GM to your bullshit and your life, and you can't just go around complaining all the fucking time, or we hate you because you make life more difficult to deal with because it just seems unpleasurable. So keep things fun, keep things fancy, keep things happy. But by the end of it, like, you have a lot more control than you realize what you're dealing with. Now, the man-made things like money, cars, objective material has nothing to do with any of that, except for what you have control over with your will, life's reality will, how you look in some ways, and what you can do in life. In some ways, no, because it's not like we're all guilty of some kind of a crime, but there's certain augmentative limits that you can have on your appearance or things that you deal with and do in life, which if you have come to love yourself like anything else, you're probably stuck with how you look more than importantly than you probably like yourself up to a certain point, and will never admit it. Even if you are humble and never admit it, there will always be an understanding of things that will philosophically never bend, and that's one of them, is your identity. At least a little bit. It can and it will, but it just gets to a certain point that it's not one of the easier laws of reality to break or to bend about. I don't think I need to write a fucking book about it or anything like that, because if I ever wrote a book about it in this shit, it would seem, wait, you're religious, and wait, why, when all of this is literally jail philosophies and spirituality on how much you could bend reality to the point where, like, if you could get out of jail or punishment, what the fuck is the point of writing this book about what you don't need from life, or what you need more of in life, or what your mastery over life is? Of course not important. That's why I'm not writing no fucking book about it. But, like, even by the end of it, conquering yourself and conquering the magic that is you, which is your own self, is yourself. So even if you know what magic is, or you know how to conquer reality, most of that is it comes within due right of, like, let's say it's 75% conquer yourself, and then the rest of the percentage is conquering reality, or knowing what reality is actually made of and dealing with in a full spectrum an anatomy. Let's say an anatomy would be used as an anatomy. So all the mistakes or your preference or your, what the hell is that called, your preference of view or whatever on reality, and seeing where it bends is how you can actually help it bend, or to move reality into just cause. I hate getting sidetracked, but anyways, back to this said bitch. This bitch dodging all these fucking bullets in it, and it finally had the insight on me where I realized, oh my God, this is exactly what it is. This is what happened. This is what the fault is. I'm not blaming the world, because sometimes I can't blame God, reality, or religion, because even when you have 5 factions, to us, the older ghetto or people or something who follow God and love and respect God, God is our friend. God is our mentor. God is the big brother we never had. God was the guy who gave us a little extra more on the cliff to pull ourselves up, and so on and so forth. To other people, God is like the all-seeing commander, the lawless law in all of our lives, that we have to follow every commandment and do all these little things. That's not exactly true for me in the way I've come to understand religion. So religion is also like a part of those things where, like, what would the priest have done? Now, even if I wasn't a priest and I knew what the priest would have done, I still have to go and be a mercenary at the time and just pretend that I was a hired gun. And let's say you could get paid, and I'm a very original type, so you could get paid by the government or by the church town or somewhere, whatever, the governed body, to go and do your mercenary job or your extra job, or you wandered off to the church, asked them if they need anything, and just started working for the church for free. I'm that type. So by the end of it, I like what God does. I like what he says. I like his work. I like his art. I love everything about him, so I go work for him when I have free time. That includes you. If you want to go and put some fucking time in at the church, sweep up their shit, clean out the parking lot, do your fucking duty and shit. You get some fucking community service hours and all kinds of fucking shit. Just if you bored and you like listening to fucking crazy ass lunatic Hypnox, then just go take your ass to the fucking church. Go do some community service. I'm telling Hypnox sent you or some shit. We don't know. We just want to help him out and do some free work for him. If you can write me down some community service hours, it's good to do that. Because like let me tell you, I'm not that ghetto, but like let's say you get into a fucking crime or something. I'm not talking about no physical assault, no weird ass human rights issue type of shit, but I'm talking about civilized stuff. If you get in some trouble with the law, you can use that fucking community service hours already docked, and you could be walking right out of that motherfucker like, well, here's my community service hours and blah blah, and you get the fuck out of there. I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't do it on purpose. I'm just saying that like that has happened to me before, where I've used my bag do community service hours for no reason and got the fuck out of my crime. It was a beautiful thing, and I just walked out of there. I was like, damn, I didn't even have to pay the ticket. They took my community service hours. So I don't know, whatever. So it pays to be dignified in your free time or whatnot. But anyway, so this bitch is just dodging bullets left and right, and and like things I never even fucking heard of, but she has to remember. And then I realized something. All that sociological, psychopathic, fucking narcissistic, liar ass bitch shit and psycho shit that we had to deal with in the modern day world, and in some, let's say I'm gonna leave it at the 70s or the 80s, 90s, or whatever, anything after the 70s, really, we were dealing with a sociological fucking narcissistic bitch, and we couldn't understand it. And it's weird to suddenly discover that, like, when if you ever do kill a bitch, or not like a woman, I'm talking about like a man that's evil or some shit and did something wrong or sinful or something, like, put it this way, we would all be against, or isn't fruitful under the eyes of all of our growth, or makes us all immorally grown. Anything that qualifies as somewhat sinful or something like that, or is just wrong for industrial practices. I wouldn't know how to say industry about that, but either way, all those things that are corrupt, that and killing the bitch or the man, or disposing of them some way, and where they come back as a woman as a punishment. I swear to you, that's not my decision. It was literally life. I've seen it do it multiple times. Because you ever see something that's such a magnificent, giant, beautiful creature do something so basically fucked up like that? It was just like, it's tired of your trash. Put it this way, it's going through traffic, and you're driving through traffic, and you're on your way somewhere to go. Now, this person that's blocking traffic, do we just like destroy it and throw it away as fast as possible, and punish it for the rest of its life if it can't end it right then and there, and won't have the debate about it? Will it just make it a woman? And it just did. It just fucking made it a woman, threw it away, and then fucking out of your way, and that's one less thing in traffic, and we all just kept driving. That's how it felt. That's how it felt to watch the world do that. The world, or what you know it to be as God, is really actually a fucking thug like that, and it's kind of crazy and interesting sometimes to realize. It's like, no, we're not gonna sit through that. You think Muhammad sit through that bullshit? No, he didn't sit through that. Jesus didn't either. No, didn't, and they didn't. Then the other group, no, they didn't sit through that bullshit either, so we're not going to. On with the taxi. Where were you going again, young man? But anyways, by the end of it, you start to realize, you add all this up, and the real conclusion is this. That bitch, she really did all that to us. And I'm talking about pre her being a man. And we're not talking about transvestitism. We're talking about the world finished this bitch off, and she came back as a fucking woman, and the world didn't even fucking care, because it knew that it was liable to happen, because the life and people in this world get this fucking thing in their head. It's so immature that the world is actually being immature about it, because it was just kind of like, you're gonna bring this bitch back, and the world already made sure you wasn't bringing it back, and brought it back as a woman. It was just like, if you do bring it back, you're a little bitch for even trying to bring her back, and then you'll discover that you're a little bitch through her by being a little bitch to go bring her back. And we were just like, Jesus Christ, that little bitch quote. It really affected me and the fucking world. But I'll tell you one thing, like, the world is definitely not going to lose the fight. And it's just kind of funny to watch the world deal with people and their frivolous bullshit, even when they think that they're the winner, or like even when the internet thinks that it won something. Like, it's like sometimes the internet be thinking that it fucking won something, and the world is like, you're lucky that I'm not there in your private fucking conversation, because that's the internet. The internet is like you in privacy without the world and shit. And it's just funny to laugh at it, because you just sit there and be like, you think the internet won? Trust me, the world would have destroyed you. You just don't want to live in the real world. That's why you went to the fucking internet like a little bitch. But by the end of it, it's just funny, because even when the world is too mature to respond to it and it's bullshit, you'll learn that too. Because you ever been with brown people and you start to realize, oh my God, earthlings are actually earthlings. Yes, we are. We are earthlings. This is Earth, and welcome to the world and shit. And the world is the better knowledge of everything that the world has learned to do. And what Earth would have done is still damn near old school, correct, and probably would have been right to just beat their ass or hit them in their motherfucking head. And that's true. But by the end of it, it's still like, yes, the world is out there, still heart ticking and time ticking and bleeding and living in blood, sweat, and tears and all that bullshit. But then to realize that it was just that little bitch the whole entire time. But I'm going to make my point and then expand on it soon. The real point is this. While you was living in 2D, and even though we think that everything in life is supposed to be lived, sung for, fought for, real life development, you're supposed to be doing things. You're not really supposed to live by the pen. You know, you can fight by the pen and do things by the pen, and have some dictation, but live by the pen or live by the sword, you're still supposed to be a man at the end of the day. So you're supposed to go do a bunch of other shit. Maybe the pen is for someone else to dictate or run you. We're not those types. Most people are supposed to go and follow some orders, do some of the shit for our nation, country, and civilization, or whatever the fuck. But then when you start adding it up, this person who was wrong and learned to live by the sword, and learned to live by the fucking pen only, ended up acting so fucking crazy to that point where, like, her or him or whatever in the small group of liar brackets had that much of a psychological, sociological effect on us. That includes the 25 million people. Now, we're not talking about their actual amount of money. We're talking about, like, how guilty do you think the world really is? How many sinners do you really think that there are? How many bad people do you think that actually were running the world? And is it because of their insight on being such fucked up, bad, ill people that they had this effect on us, where our fear or our hatred is consumed by what we know them to be, other than why the fuck they think that hatred is money? Like, come on now. It's just not that true, but it's also, we're not that consumed by our hatred and revenge. And even if that was the case, that's the best lesson they have ever learned, was to be in hatred. Good. There's a reason why they allow that, and why they almost think it's funny too to just continue to hate you, because they haven't made it the worst that they could yet. Like we said, it could just eat you and make you a woman anyway if that was the fucking punishment. I'm not against women. I'm just saying that this is just literally how the world operates and functions. I'm not against women either, but when you're one of those really good, like, feminine man, boy, beast things, and you see the world behave in such an old school manner of like, you're weak as a woman, or whatever the fuck it is, and they just chew it up and swallow it and spit it out and just be disgusted with, and that's flat out its punishment, you are inclined to fucking agree, because the problem has been taken care of. It's like, so what? The man took out the garbage for me. So what? Right? You know what I mean? Like, you just let the world dispose of it. And like, not what I expected too. I was expecting a ceremony, the person be led out in blindness, almost crippled on two man's arms, being wound out of the church and thrown away down the fucking mountain of 300 or some shit. I expected something miraculous, but instead the world just fucking kind of like, inoculated the motherfucking person, subconsciously provided this all with a enigmatic fucking fucking cure to the brief moment that it took to deal with that giant fucking problem that we suffered for like 3 or 4 years about, or like even socially under 1 year for the copyright that it takes to actually get you your money from being hated so fucking much in a socialistic industry or media platform. Like, who the fuck cares? Y'all are so fucking stupid. Like, you act like hate is like worth money and shit. Like, this is the dumbest shit. And like, could you imagine like everything we said that's wrong with the world and how many different curses we have? We have more curses than we could count on 10 fingers and toes. And you want to talk about how you could make money off of this type of hatred, or like this is fame or whatever the fuck. No, that's not actually fame. You just fucking stupid. You just try to convince yourself of that just to help yourself put up with the shame and the dignity that it takes for you to try to put your pants on one leg at a time each morning. You don't even feel human anymore from it. So we don't know. That's just your way of psychologically dealing with it. But when we get back to the motherfucking real point and a sad, real twisted plot, is that all of that reek of havoc on the modern day world and all of us and our psyche will due to that person being guilty of something that we wanted them to be extinguished for. It isn't really the problem with revenge or the concept of hatred. It's the problem with and trust me, I got no problem with that. I'm a thug, man. At the end of the day, if I want you away from me or I want you done, I don't want you near me, or you did something wrong to us in the world. It's just as simple as that. I'm not easy to get on my motherfucking nerves and shit, but like, you did something wrong that we're not all allowed to do, then fuck you, perish, motherfucker. Get the fuck out. You are the concept for trash, and that's something we're allowed to hate and just go away, and stop trying to convince us of what we can hate and what we can't hate. That's just normal for the world to want to irrationalize or indulge ourselves into how much bitterness it needs to be for that person to cope with the fact that we just don't want to be with them because of something they fucking did wrong. It's like a disease. We just don't want you, and that's just how that has to go. We don't care. We don't owe you nothing. You're gonna have to learn to accept that bullshit in life. So what? People don't like you for less. Oh well, I don't owe you a fucking thing, right? And it's sad because like you start adding it all up in your life. So everything, even like you go back and you watch certain TV channels at different times during the day, or like, sitcom hours, or what was it? The evening time program channels or whatever. Stuff like, Dateline and shit like that. And you start to realize yourself, go look at that TV show. You see up in the upper right-hand corner, or where they put their little advertisement for the channels and shit like that. You want to talk about subconscious liar? Like, go look at life itself. Go look at your TV channel. Go look at the little where they advertise and shit like that. If you look at up in the upper left corner, upper right corner, down left corner, and down right corner, go look. Now, when you see all these different advertisements, the way they relay things to you, psychologically, they're not guilty of anything, okay? They're not. But when you start adding up what this person was doing, this psychotic bitch or a psychotic man or whatever the fucking sinner was, because to me, it's just like let's just say sinner. I'll go with that. I don't know and I don't care. All I'm saying, when you start adding this up, and I'm going to provide you with a few more indulgences about this so that you can all start to realize and relay that history exists. TV exists. TV's history exists. The history of TV exists. Go watch, because you'll start to realize that you can bounce around and see how time is manipulated. Now go look at TV. You change some channel and you have a different show on that's on a different channel. All of those emotional and psychological synapses are available to you within 3 to 4 seconds within delay or interlay. Now, when you add up all that stuff and you start to realize what this bitch was psychologically doing, it's not just more than your fucking opinion. It's actually vividly living. So when you go through this and you start to realize, okay, so what does that have to do with their little advertisements over here? Why the fuck would you look up and to the right, into the corner of the head, and that would be a part of your imagination? No. Because the other person that's spiritually living, that thinks that they're intravenously living through you and this life medial, has died so many times spiritually that they've lost perception of reality to its self degree, that in their spiritual reality, while let's say their out of body experience is a part of them manifesting their own life, that they don't even realize that they're not looking up into the right to find their creativity. They're looking up into the right and finding another spiritual soul that's owed to life and could not be sown in. Now, whether that's true or not, and these are all things that, like, of course life doesn't revolve around TV. Why do you think I'm so old school? I would rather not have that kind of TV or even fucking internet. But let's just say that there's nothing wrong with it or technology, but like if you start adding up all these different concepts in life and you're just like, oh my god, you hideous whore, what have you been doing with your life? And you start to realize something. Ratings, and then you start to see these little tabs and little crisp notes in your mind of like, why do I remember all these things so much? And I am a very good tripper. I am a very good hallucinator. I'm a very good acid enthusiast. I'm very good at certain things in life. But do you know what my number one pet peeve is? Actually tripping at all. I hate tripping. I hate fucking hallucinations. I hate auditory hallucinations. I hate psychopaths. I hate fucking crazy people. I hate people who talk to themselves. I hate all of those things. Now, I'm not saying I hate them to the prejudice of life or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't want them to have problems for no reason. I'm saying that, like, all that added up with what I know, what are you, a hideous bitch? And then I look at myself and I'm looking at like, why you would probably look at me and think, why do you know all this? You're guilty. But it's still one of those laughable things that what I really succumb to in reality aren't these things. These are the smallest parts of my life. This is like you added up 10% and you found out that like, oh, it's okay to go jerk off. Yes, that's what I want you to know. I want you to be entertained by things. I want you to feel comfortable with things. I want you to feel comfortable alluding to your sexuality, finding yourself. All those things I want you to be comfortable with. The other part I don't want you to feel comfortable with is finding me and all of that for no reason. I don't know how, right? I don't care how. You have nothing to do with me. You should mind your own fucking business. But when it comes to, yeah, because I very much mind my own business too. So you probably wouldn't have found me that way. But when it comes back to the true psychological meaning about all this, add up some of that stuff. I'm going to come out with another fucking tape and I'm going to reinstall this and let you get another view at this coaster table that we got going here. Because you want to talk about infinite life, mortality, currency, dominance, all of these fucking different things that come to a psychological nexus for all of us to comprehend. And it still won't mean what it's supposed to mean to you, which is supposed to be something more anarchic than what we're supposed to be. And it's supposed to be free thinking, wild, and true growth. I mean, real intellectual propriety, real intellectual growth, real intellectual property that you earned from some place that could be convened for free to free your mind. Which is what all real trippers are really going for anyways. It's what we really probably sat out to do. And nobody really wants to hallucinate. Nobody really wants to be with you in magical fantasy drugs, because you end up getting those drugs and then want to do them by yourself and have your own deep spiritual moments. No one knows, no one cares. Even when I come out with some trip videos and it's just for you to relax, that's a part of my life that I'm like, that's less than 10%. The reason I got to convince you of that is because, well, guess what? I was just going to go do my artwork and you were all up in my motherfucking business. And all I wanted to do was let you go. So I found a way to delicately let you have some fun while I have some fun and then go have a fucking trip. So we took a different trip and then we went down that path. Now I go back to work again. Or I go back to do some other artistic work. Whatever, stay out of my fucking business. But when it comes back to the real point of this, did you know that sick bitch ruin the modern day fucking world. Now, if you ever get any of this shit and you God or one of them motherfuckers, you take us the fuck back before we found out to throw this fucking bitch away. I'm not talking about Earth, because Earth don't care, the world don't care, we don't care. We tossed that bitch like it was fucking nothing. We tossed every one of them like it was fucking nothing. You talking about like kill this and that? What if we just like thought them out of existence and threw them away, right? Like, I mean, instantaneously, like spontaneous combustionably threw them the fuck away and did not care and did not look back. Didn't even care if it had to come back as a woman. You know why he does that? You know why sometimes we do that? Is because literally, when it comes back as a woman, it keeps those stupid fucking internet predator type of motherfuckers off of our back about why the fuck you would ever resurrect somebody just to be a nemesis to us, just to see if anything can really bother us. I'm not gonna owe you. You can't get over a trip that we had in 1992. You can't even get over a trip we had in 1996. You can't even get over a trip we had in the 1980s. And it's just always something. And then when my memory ends at Exalt, or I've gone fully as far back as I can, I realize that there's still more on the list. They're like, you can't handle it because we did it in 77. You didn't handle it in 72. And you know what? You just wanted more of what we did in 65. And then, you know what? Back in 44. And in 33. And in 21. And like blah, blah. 1940. 1902. And by the end of it, it's like, well, that's when TV was invented. It was around there. So then we'll have to go back 200 more years to get what you're looking for. And like, what the fuck, you motherfuckers? And it's just like these motherfuckers, and it really is just that way. And those motherfuckers, and unbelievable, these goddamn motherfuckers. It's just always like that. But then when it gets back to the real truth and back to more of the motherfucking point, and the point is this: that sick bitch, and I'm going to prove this to you later, or I'm going to show you enough so that you'll have a way of figuring this out for yourself and realizing how it all went down, or why this sick bitch. And if you ever see anybody like that again, or you ever deal with anybody like that again, this is why I tell you this, is that you'll know to get rid of that person, hate them, or throw them away from society, because you'll know it's not just the knowledge that is king. It's not just the third eye that is blind. It's not just these fucking things. And in all ignorance, the unassuming might be the throne. Because, you know, you want that motherfucker to not know anything, right? Meanwhile, he knows goddamn everything, and all I do is pretend like I don't fucking know. But by the end of it, I want you to remember, when you see something like this, even when it's on daytime TV, we have hosted these people. Now, I love my country. I love this fucking place. And I know that we probably don't do it on purpose or don't even realize that we do it. But watching something like this happen, and not a damn one fucking person say, do, or lift a goddamn finger, except for the world and me, and for what I know, and the other few handful of people that are less than goddamn 20 on my motherfucking fingers and hands that I could even count on, that have ever done some goddamn shit for this shithole and gotten rid of said bitch, or that type of thing. So, but or some type of goddamn way. And you goddamn right, I threw both of them the fuck away like I was going back for more EBT. I didn't give a shit. So by the end of it, you have to realize what the fuck the whole meaning is here. If you ever see what I'm trying to tell you, I'm going to explain this a different, trippier way sometime later on through video synapses. And a lot of people think that they know what a hallucination is. Think that they know what art is, think that they know what a trip is with Hypnox, and all these other things. You start to realize this is bio-grade military, and we don't know, we don't care, we don't tell you. There's nothing to say. It's just kind of like life once upon a day took it upon its time to just say, hey, fuck it, why would I care about your ranking or this or that when I've been working my whole fucking life with nobody, and I've always had only a certain amount of backup, and this is how we act. And you either get in line or you shut the fuck up, or you're not one of mine. Welcome to Earth, right? That's how it goes. So there's nothing I can say or do or be about it. Just gotta let Earth do its fucking thing. That's what it's like to be Sandshrew with that motherfucker. And and sometimes I don't know who's the pet. So we don't know, we don't care. But let's just get back to the fucking truth. When you see this kind of synapses and you start to realize on the next video that I'm making, When you can identify that type of psychological, or when you see it moving throughout media centrically, and you start to realize, because it's not like about like advanced spiritual shit, because I don't talk about that. I hate that shit. I hate all of it. It's like psychic intuition bullshit, which we all know is kind of proven facts and true. Sometimes I can prove it to you, sometimes I will, sometimes I don't have a point to, and I only really take it into a point like, you need to understand this one, because if you ever see that psychological, that is the demon incarnate who came the fuck back into reality as a fucking woman and tried to re-trap us again. Because it's easier to get them as women, or like they just were tired of the bitch being, or the man, or the sin guy. Well, not exactly the sin person, because we're not exactly talking about the same thing. Being resurrected as some nemesis towards all of us in society. Just for us to suffer. Just to see if Earth has any more emotions left. You ever just sat there and you realize the alien extinguishment, or the alien outer bounds, wants to know if we're alive? And we're like, yes, of course we're alive. But they really wanted to know, do you have any more of that sweet, sweet emotion shit? Fuck no. And the whole planet said, hell no. And then we closed the door on the fucking satellite. And we were like, nah, we lost satellite feed. That's right. Earth did that for us. That's right. So I don't know, and I don't want to hear it. Because, like, by the end of it, the lunatic, no, the moon can say whatever the hell it wants. It's like our kid or something, that they expect it to be raised better than us. Well, who cares? I don't give a shit. And then the sun, well, you know what he's there for, to shine up the wax ass off of his impression of being a better woman than us. Or some shit like Earth must be a woman too. I don't know, whatever, man. We don't know, we don't care. Sometimes we felt like a woman, sometimes not at all. Now, you leave us all the fuck alone. We don't know, we don't care. But the number one question we get asked here is, are we a woman? And now, I'm not going to respond to that, because you both feel like how we feel. Now, when it comes to the other fucking sun planet, or whatever the fuck that is, the sun, you know why we love the sun, and you know why we love and worship the sun. It's cold outside, have a lovely day. You know what I'm saying? I like it nice and chilly anyway. But by the end of it, it's not really the big deal. Cool, whatever. We don't care. I'm glad that you escaped this fucking highway with all the bitterness and rage that you need as a young man to be stronger than the planet that you're from. Good sun man, or whatever, sun man, defining the holy glow in the world. We don't know, we don't care. We are happy for you. We don't care what bitter shit they say to us about it. So by the end of it, you have met a part of our lunacy. And that's it. That's the universe in the grand scheme of things, all you need to know and all you need to give a shit about. But when you identify that other psychological and shit, and you start to realize how seamlessly this shit system is run, of psychological bullshit and jargon, or how much they want you to put up with shit just because they're like, you want Earth to love you or to give a shit about you. Now, the likelihood of that is, do you do anything for us? Do you work for us? Do you have a job here? Are you gainfully employed? How much do you make? Are you an annual liver? Do you like this type of car? Is this your favorite car? What type of a car would you be if you were a car? So what kind of a car do you think that you should buy for Earth? What do you think we should do with our lives? What do you think it's going to look like in 5 or 20 years if we had this type of car that we wanted to keep on the road for 20 years? Is that possible? So let's buy a new car. Do you like this car? Is it a classic car? Now, it's easier to talk about cars with Earth than it would be that saying where we're going to be in 20 years. Do you think we give a shit? No, we don't even give a shit about the car. But the car is supposed to mean something to us in 20 years. As in, damn, I didn't buy another car. That must have been a good car. Now, that's all that it was supposed to mean, right? That's the trick to this whole thing. Could it mean any better than less service? Or more service from something that just seems about accurate for me to do my normal stuff? And that's all. But when you get back this big ticket, and I'm going to give you a different answer, psychologically, forensically, just understand what I'm trying to tell you. Remember these things. Up in the upper left right corner, why the fuck would you have to look up there to come up with how to lie to somebody. Now, even when I used to believe this stuff and when I used to use some of these different materials to keep myself subjectively well and controlled by my own will, or to keep my state of preference in my peripheral vision and all of that, I still realize that even if this is bullshit, how would it be true? So I had to work for how the hell that would be true. So upon trying to make this true and conceivable, I started to realize something about TV. The whole thing was watching a public terrorization going on imminently in that moment, to the point where I could narrow it down to its TV and channel and the exact moment that it was actually playing, and realize that no one gave a shit because they were watching TV. How crazy is something like that? And you wonder, how the hell could he prove something like that? And how the hell is this supposed to lead to that person's psychological? How the hell are we supposed to make the world run better and more justly? And then I started to realize something. I really am on my fucking own. I really am a day tripping night fiend. So how does that all add up? And then I started to realize there's only about a 2 or 3 second delay between channel changes. So even if all of the synapses are all linked to those different types of things, and there's only like 1.6, 1.5 or so chance of error rate, how the hell does that add up to this other human being's psychological? And I started to realize something. When you start to identify these different psychologicals, you'll be able to read their imprint on mankind and what they had done wrong to the world. It's like the shadows of their doubt and insignificance, or what they have done to the world, are literally a physical resemblance of things that we've had to do. Now, of course, they could put somebody else in the way. Of course, it's not all cut out from candlesticks like some fucking weird ass like shadow puppet game, but it's closer to a shadow puppet game than to what we realize is true battery energy or Egyptian lamps. So how old and how young could you possibly think any of these revelations are? Do you think this is me? Do you think this is us? Do you think this is something we commonly know? And in some places and in some endearments, all of us commonly know this to be a common understanding. But when you add up all this, it still leads back to the fact that we let that evil person get in the way of so much just and insignificance and significance in life that it truly does seem meaningless sometimes.